I'd like to introduce you to Angie, who obviously you all know, right here, okay? Madge, an author and esteemed author in her own right, and Dominic with the Limerick Writers Group. And we're going to kick off now. We're going to ask Dominic to introduce himself there with the Limerick Writers Group, who's been very supportive of Angie throughout the whole campaign. So thank you very much. Gormina Malta.
Thank you, Junior. Now, as he said there, my name is Dominic Taylor, and I'm the director of the Limerick Writers Centre and editor at Savoy Editions, the genre and literary fiction imprint of the Limerick Writers Centre. And I would like to express my gratitude to all of you for coming out tonight to celebrate the publication of The Long Way Home, the new novel from Angie Togher. Angie's book marks the 218th title that we have helped see into print since the inception of our community publishing project in 2009.
Wow.
Since then, our publishing activities have overseen many genres, lots of poetry, short story, memoir, history, and the novel. And our prime motivation is to promote writing within the community. And as a community press, our aim is always to give writers and poets the opportunity to see their work in print. That's why we actively encourage writers, from the serious career-minded to people who write for pleasure, healing, personal growth, insight, or just to inform. We're not chasing bestseller lists or mass production. At Limerick Writers Centre, we produce limited, carefully manufactured print runs, books made with intention, care, and respect for both writer and reader. Our approach is straightforward: quality over quantity, craft over haste. We believe that every book deserves to be well made, and every author deserves to be heard. But here's what truly excites us. We want every Limerick Writers Centre book to inspire other writers. We believe that even in limited editions, each book has the power to encourage someone to pursue their own writing dream. Many of you may have heard of the avant-garde rock band, the Velvet Underground. Well, back in the 1960s, their first album sold only 300 copies. But there's a wonderful legend that says that every person who bought that album went on to form their own band. That's our dream. We may publish limited runs, but if each book inspires even one person to pick up a pen, to join a writing group, to believe that their story matters, then we've created something far more valuable than a bestseller. We're creating a movement, writer by writer. And incidentally, the name The Velvet Underground was taken by the band from a paperback. So within the pages of Angie's new work, we're taken through the streets of 3 cities, Limerick, Liverpool, and London. And the story of a woman who makes a life-changing decision, changing her identity, but she finds the past catching up with her. And as with her 2 previous novels, she gives us a sense of genuine connection with her characters. Her path has been one of dedication, community, and persistence, and now she holds the result in her hands. Now, as I said earlier, the book is the 217th title the Limerick Writers Centre has published across its 3 imprints since 2009. And now that's a lot of books, and I think we've learned a few things along the way. And one of the things is to respect the writer. While we are always willing to offer advice, we like to observe the writer's wishes when it comes to how their work is presented. We're not here to make ourselves look good, we're here to get good writing into readers' hands. So let's celebrate Angie tonight, and let's celebrate the Limerick Writers Centre, and let's celebrate the power of community, of craft, and of taking that often terrifying, bold step to share your story with the world. We all know publishing is changing. Many publishers say that they want great stories, but seem to actually want people with TikTok followers, Instagram audiences, or podcasts. And with AI's arrival, there's a danger that writing is being reduced to content production. But with writers like Angie and publishers like the Limerick Writers Centre, we hope to resist that tide and continue publishing books that matter, books that challenge, move, and stay with readers long after the final page. Books written by people who have something to say and not just something to sell. Thank you again for being here tonight, sharing with your family and friends the writing of Angie Togher. And now I'd like to introduce writer and our dear friend, Angie Togher, who will officially launch the book. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Dominic. Well, it's just lovely to look out and see all your faces here tonight. And all of you here for Angie Togher. I'm delighted to see you, and thank you for coming out. It's just an honour and a privilege for me to be invited to help Angie to launch her third novel, The Long Way Home. I first met Angie in the glam rooms in Sixmilebridge when my granddaughter Emily introduced her to me. I forgot all about this. Isn't aging a nuisance, really? But I suppose it's better than the alternative. Emily, like many of the business owners and community in Sixmilebridge, was so proud to support Angie by selling her books in her salon. When Angie contacted me to help out with this launch, I was very flattered. When we met to discuss this, I asked her how she knew me, because I'd forgotten. And she said Emily had been singing my praises to her in the same way as Emily had been singing her praises to me. It was only then that I remembered our first meeting. So thank you, Emily, for giving us both this opportunity. Many years ago, I trained with the Amherst Writers and Artists in the USA, an organisation founded by the late Pat Schneider. Pat's philosophy was that a writer is someone who writes. Straightforward and simple, isn't it? Not that easy, though. Angie Togher has done just that. She wrote. She sat down at the blank page and got on with it. She wrote and she wrote until she finished what is now her third novel, The Long Way Home. She reminds me of something that the late Maeve Binchy, novelist, said during an interview. Someone made the remark that anyone could write the books that Binchy wrote. Maeve's classic response, yes, but I am the one who did it. I remind myself often of that, and as writers we need to remember that as well. A book doesn't write itself. Harlan Coben, the great American crime writer, says that it takes inspiration, perspiration, and desperation. So what does he mean by that? Well, the inspiration comes in the form of ideas. Coben tells us that writers pick up ideas everywhere. You'd better watch out now when you're sitting around writers, as some of you know. Everyday conversations or events with friends and family, to current affairs or world events, are fodder for writers. Look at the recent recordings about a couple of famous Irish people in America this week, and the way they've been written about. Jessie Buckley at the Oscars, and Micheál Martin at the other entertainment centre in the White House. There are as many opinions about these events as there are people who wrote about them. And depending on the writer's viewpoint, the two people have been written about really differently. And then poor Richie Bainham, who was the only receiving his third Oscar for his animation work in Avatar, he barely got a look in. We love you, Richie, wherever you are. Ideas are everywhere. It's the task of the writer to notice and capture them, and then of course to write them down. Getting our ideas down on paper or on our phones or on our laptops or other technology is essential. No one can read what's inside your head. Perspiration then is the art of doing the writing. Carving out the time from our busy lives, switching off the distractions, the mobile phones, the TVs, avoiding the scrolling on social media, or finding new and innovative ways to distract ourselves from sitting down to the horror of the blank page. A writer friend in Dublin tells me she has the cleanest bathroom in Ireland because it's what she does to distract herself from writing and practicing the delicate art of procrastination. Often people around us think that we're not really doing anything if we're writing. So it's really important for us as writers to carve out space and time for ourselves to write. And Angie has managed to achieve this brilliantly. My late sister-in-law, Anne O'Callaghan, worked from home long before anyone coined that particular phrase. She's been dead for many years. Every weekday at 9 o'clock, Anne would take herself off into a room in her house and do her work until 1 p.m, when she would go to Shannon Town Centre and do whatever it was that she needed to do, or banking or shopping. Excuse me. She was a bookkeeper, not a writer, but no one would disturb Anne between 9 and 1, because that was her work day, even though she was at home. We all knew that this was her job. As writers, though, we can find it difficult to prioritise writing time, because it's often seen as a hobby that can be interrupted by anybody at any time. And of course, with our very often lack of self-belief, we can sabotage ourselves by not turning up at the page. The perspiration then, the job of writing, must be done to complete our work, whether that's a novel, a poem or book of poems, a short story, a script or a TV series. We have to get to sweat. Desperation is the third issue that Harlan Coben talked about. You have to be desperate to be a successful writer. You have to want it badly enough, so says Coben. What's the point of writing if you never get to show it to anyone else? If no one ever reads what you've written? I know I've stopped myself from submitting work for fear of rejection. I remember one time, years ago now, I showed my writing to a boyfriend. I said, God, that's very depressing. I was probably going through the most distressful time in my life at the time. I didn't write again for years. Imagine I let him stop me. Writers have to grow an extra skin. Coben says, if you're not desperate, don't be a writer. Do another job. Angie's work is set against a backdrop of current events and social norms of the past that bring us from the 1960s to the current day. From President John F. Kennedy's visit to Ireland in 1963, where he talked about the beautiful women and fast horses, the observation of Limerick Mayor Francis Condell's whimsical hat, Roach's stores in Limerick, and Cara having to have her husband's dinner ready when he got home from work, to the tins of Ajax staining important documents, to the insidiousness of coercive control and domestic violence. This is a tale of two sisters separated by time and distance, living very different lives, and three cities interwoven with the challenges of being a family carer, Irish emigration to the UK, living in a London squat, and just as we think that part of our lives is over, something comes back to bite us in the bum. I just want to do a little bit of reading from page 20 in Angie's book. And the reason I'll tell you about why I've chosen this when I've finished reading it. Hey Dad, good sleep. Mum must have just stepped out for a few minutes. Do you need anything? To give him his due, David was impatient in every sense. He didn't lose his temper or display frustration at his limited capabilities. Sometimes Cara almost wished he would. A good row wouldn't do any of them any lasting harm, she thought bitterly. It would show some spirit, better than the lethargy he always showed now. He pulled himself slowly into a sitting position as his daughter resisted the urge to run to his side and help. It was something she and her mother were trying very hard to reach balance upon, the need to let David do things for himself and the caring instinct that made them hover over him. I'll just skip a bit. When she woke up on Saturday morning, Cara could hear the sound of the radio in the kitchen as her mother moved around preparing breakfast. She dressed slowly and made her way downstairs, thinking of the typing exercise she needed to get out of the way before she could enjoy her night out. She pushed her long auburn hair out of her eyes. As she approached the kitchen door, the news slot, what it says in the papers, was just beginning. It took a few moments for either woman to absorb what was being reported. Cara's mother, Sarah, came to a halt halfway across the kitchen with the porridge pot in her hand. Cara stood rooted to the spot at the table. Snatches of the reporter's voice as they described the carnage of the night before that would become known as the Stardust tragedy seeped out of the radio as Cara and her mother listened in silence. How long they stood there, they couldn't remember. Harrowing reports of the number of young people who had died, how many injured, how young they were. The voice of a survivor, a girl called Antoinette Keegan, as she gave her eyewitness account of the horrors of the fire, had them transfixed. Cara eventually pulled out a chair and sat at the table, head in hands. When her mother realised Cara was crying, she put the pot down and came over to put her arms around her shoulders. She gave her daughter a few minutes to weep, then shook her gently, and I'm skipping another bit as well. When Cara looked back on that day, years to come, she wondered at her own resilience, that she would even consider going to a nightclub the very night after the Stardust disaster. That night, as they piled into the dance area of the new nightclub, the revellers heard something they hadn't heard before. The DJ was announcing where all the emergency exits from the hall could be found. I just think that is a very profound piece of writing. That the Stardust tragedy really changed the shape of how we do things at social events, and it was because of that tragedy that this is what we do. It's really important that we support writers like Angie, who, through the Limerick Writers Centre, has found an avenue to back her to get her work out there. They don't just do that for everyone. The book has to be worth reading before they publish. Limerick Writers Centre and the support given to local writers to achieve their writing goals plays a phenomenal part in publishing the Midwest. And I want to thank them here tonight, and thank you, Dominic, and all involved. Pat is at every opening as well. All involved in the Limerick Writers Centre. I'm delighted to launch this book, and I congratulate you, Angie, on a wonderful achievement. It really is a great read. Enjoy it. Now Angie is going to say a few words herself.
First thing I'd say is that I like reading, but I don't really like talking, so I won't take too long. I'm not going to say too much about the book. I hope that you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Thanks so much for that ringing endorsement. You made the words sound wonderful when you read it out loud. You might have guessed from the cover that it's set in Limerick, London and Liverpool, as Madge said. I had a small moment of panic when I realised that I had written about Liverpool and not mentioned Beatles. Dominic reliably informed me that the part about Liverpool is set in the 80s, and at that time, unlike today when there's a huge tourist industry around the Beatles, they were relatively ignored in the 80s. But when I was doing the research for that part of the book, I realised that considering what the people of the city were going through at the time, they had more on their mind besides the Beatles' music. I just really want to thank people. I'm going to start with thanking Jack and Deirdre for the use of this lovely venue. They always give us great support, not just for tonight, but for all community events. They really do support the locality really well. The Limerick Writers Centre, thank you, Pat, for being here tonight. Dominic is an inspiration. He's support, encouragement, full of suggestions and ideas. And I definitely, like a lot of other writers, wouldn't be here doing this tonight except for the support we get from the Limerick Writers Centre. Thank you very much, Dominic. I want to say thank you as well to Kathleen Shields, who was the designer of the cover, and after toing and froing it, came up with such a beautiful cover. I think it's very striking. Madge, As you said, I had also forgotten that I had first met you in Emily's salon, and it was really a reputation in the locality that made me encouraged me to ask you to come and launch the book tonight. And I'm really glad, because when we sat together last week and lost track of time chatting about this, that and the other, I felt that I'd made a new friend. So thank you very much for your encouragement. Thank you for the beautiful reading and for being here tonight. Thanks to Roisin as well. Roisin, it's very good to attend tonight, and she did the honours for me the last time. It's great to see you again, Roisin. I'm delighted to see so many here tonight. There are a few people who couldn't make it, but for everybody who has bought the book or is going to buy the book, and for all of the people who said, when is your next book out, we're down to read it, thank you, because you're the ones who really made the push, made me push on to write a third one. I want to thank the local shops and post office, so Patsy, Kate, Ollie and Flora, for allowing me to use your premises to distribute the book in the locality. It's fantastic support, and it's great to live in a community like this where people are so supportive of you. My sister-in-law Margaret, yes. Sorry, just take Margaret is the person who reads my first draft, and so far she has resisted saying it's rubbish, throw it in the bins. She's full of encouragement and great positive criticism and suggestions, so thank you very much, Margaret. To Mary Maloney. Mary, if she wasn't so busy with her life, could definitely have a career as a proofreader. She's meticulous about what she does and full of suggestions. Thank you very much, Mary, for all your help. To Carmel, our holiday buddy. It was on a girly holiday in Spain, I think, that we had the conversation that inspired the story. So thank you for the story, Carmel. Thank you for the inspiration, and I look forward to our upcoming holiday. So that's it. It's great to see you all here tonight. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. If I have forgotten somebody, forgive me. I just want to say a huge thank you to my family, the Maddens, the Toghers, and particularly my sisters-in-law, who are my sister's biological mother, for all, not just for your help with this, but for your love and support with everything that we do. And lastly, I want to thank my two wonderful sons and my husband Junior, because I definitely wouldn't be standing here tonight if it weren't for them. I love you and thank you for all the support, and I'm just so grateful for you and to you.
Clare, thank you very much for everyone. It is so fantastic to see such a fantastic crowd here tonight. It's overwhelming, and really you should give yourself a clap. What a book, what people have, and I think Angie's going to be busy. Because if you'd like to, she's going to sign her personal marks on the book if you wish. So thank you very much again for coming.